Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Hi, welcome. My name is Kirsten, and together with my sister Lynn, we created the Anti-Racist Table as a way to bring anti-racism into life as a daily practice. We do that in large part with our free 30-day challenge, which we're very excited. We just upgraded our platform and it makes it really easy for people to self-pace. We have people in communities doing it together. You can do it by yourself. But anyway, it's just a great way to really embrace anti-racism and to learn what anti-racism means to you and help you figure out how to actually, do something more than just read a book or put out a sign in front of your house, but to actually be part of real change that we desperately need in America. As part of our platform, we also host these conversations. And today we're very excited to have Alexa Martin. We're going to introduce her in just a little bit. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Lynn, and she is going to do our land acknowledgement. So thank you again for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I would like to share a land acknowledgement that's inspired by Ruth King. She's an African-American mindfulness practitioner that inspires us every day. I would like to call on my ancestors to stand with me as I acknowledge the native custodians of this land, Washington, D.C. That's the name the colonizers gave it. It is actually the Piscataway people's land, and it's the Anacostan land. It's the indigenous name. Those people that are named, unnamed, known, unknown, past and present. We honor all traditions and traditional custodians of this region. We recognize their continued connection with this land, with this water, and with this community. We pay respect to the earth whose generous resources sustain us on a daily basis. And we pay respect to the enslaved African people who were brought, held, sold here, and all of their descendants. And all of the people throughout the world who are living in captivity. We pay respect to their spiritual labor. And we pay respect to our ancestors whose unwise relationship to race and racism we have inherited. We pay respect to our teachers and our elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all of the young children and people today who are teaching us. We honor this gathering, everyone here, and especially our guest, Alexa Martin, for taking the time and energy to be with us today. May you recognize that we all share an aspiration for liberation to be free in heart, mind, and body. Ashe, here ends our land acknowledgement. Now we'd like to turn it over to Kirsten, who's going to introduce our guest.
Thank you. And we are so excited tonight to have Alexa Martin here. She is a writer and a stay-at-home mom, a Nashville transplant. She's intent on instilling a deep love and respect for the great Dolly Parton and her 4 children and husband. The Playbook Series was inspired by the 8 years she spent as an NFL wife and her deep love of all things pop culture, sparkles, leggings, and wine. And here have read the whole Playbook Series. Highly, highly recommend it. When she is not repeating herself to her kids, you can find her catching up on whatever Real Housewives franchise is currently airing, or filling up her Etsy cart with items she doesn't need. And with that, we are so excited to have you here, Alexa. I'm going to turn it over to Lynn, who's going to start off our conversation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh,
yes, and we're going to stop sharing our screen, and also, so we can get a little bit closer and more personal with Alexa. So yes, first, Alexa, congratulations on this great news that your first book, let me see here, Intercepted, was a national bestseller, and it was picked for a star drama season. How exciting is that? We are really proud of you, and we just want to know, like, how incredible does it feel for you to have your story being brought to the big screen?
It's really exciting. I mean, first of all, really, I just want to thank you guys again for having me on. I already felt like I wasn't like cool enough to do this Zoom, and then you came through with that amazing opening, and it just confirmed all of my thoughts. That was amazing. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about this. It's still, it's been optioned. It doesn't necessarily mean it's coming, but just the fact that that happened. I mean, Intercepted, the first version, took me 4 years to write. And for the first 2 years, I didn't tell anybody that I was writing at all. Like I hid it in my basement. So the fact that it's all still really surreal. And I'm just super excited.
Yeah, that's amazing. Super, super kudos to you. We absolutely are loving your Playbook series. I'm still working on Interception. I've read a little bit. Oh my goodness, the hot and steamy segments that I started to read were just woo. I'm hoping we can get into some of that tonight. But yeah, I feel like there's so much in it. There's just this beautiful Black love story, interracial romance, this whole connection with girlfriends, and just sisterhood, and all the food and the cocktails and the fun that you're having, like living this life, through your characters. There's super fun. And of course, like this, the political turmoil that we're in, bringing up, racial racism, and just how it plays out as, even a person who grew up biracial with the, idea that color blindness exists, and, all of these things. You really bring up so many really important subjects in hard conversations, but in like a really light way. So we really love it. And we wanted to just see, because a lot of our audience probably hasn't even read your books, if you wanted to just tell us a little bit about each of the books and what brought you to writing them.
Yeah, so I wish I was one of those authors that was just like, I started writing in 6th grade and I have all of these notebooks filled with stories, but that's just not the case. I honestly didn't write or really read until I read 50 Shades of Grey. And yes, I'm not ashamed of it. It's fine. It was totally my gateway drug into romance. I had 3 very small children, and it was like my little escape. And I just started binging all of these romance books. And it was before I really was like one with the romance world, which if you're kind of involved, there's blogs and now like Instagrammers and all this stuff where you can get great reviews and recommendations. But I was just kind of buying one and then going back to Target and trying to find another romance. And then on Apple Books, I got it. And so I would just like get them from the top 100, but those weren't diverse at all. Like it was so hard for me to find diverse romance, to the point where I was going on Pinterest. I knew people would kind of do like character inspirations, and I would just like go through the character inspiration ones and try and find like a brown face. And if I saw one, I would buy the book, like no questions asked, just to see some diversity. And so me and my husband went on, like, he had a work thing and we went on vacation. And while I was reading a book, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try. Again, did not tell anybody. It took me 4 years to write. I quit multiple times. But yeah, so, and then I got into a mentorship program called Pitch Wars, where you kind of submit your manuscripts to a bunch of different mentors and they can pick to work with you. And I was really, really lucky. I got in. I had the best mentors, but they're just like, we love your voice, but this story is a disaster. So let's start all over. Can you rewrite it in 2 months? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like it didn't take me 4 years to write. So that's the Intercepted that you see now. And obviously I'm so glad that it happened this way, but I think that having to write it the way that I did really pushed me to find my voice in a way where I couldn't overthink and edit it down. So the Playbook series is based on the 8 years that I spent as an NFL wife. My husband played in the NFL for 8 years. Also, when I started writing, I said I would never write a football romance. So there's also that. Beyond the problems that we already know about football, there's just the way we glorify the life, which was not the experience that I had. My husband was never the superstar player. There was lots of moving and bouncing around and injuries. And so it took me kind of my mentors being like, but it's your experience. You can write it how you want, to be like, okay, wait, no, you're right. I can bring another side to it. Intercepted is more fun. I think Intercepted it deals more with Marley, who's the main character, kind of finding her own direction in life, as messy as it is along the way. Snapped is where I really was able to kind of fall into my love of tropes. And if you're not a romance reader, tropes are kind of, like, I love a secret baby romance. I love a second chance romance. All these things that I was just like, throw it in a book, mix it up, and let's see how it goes. I was able to talk about CTE and how that affects not only players, but their families. Blitzed is about Bren, who owns a bar that's featured through all of them. Female friendship is a really strong part of these books that kind of developed as the series went on. She's definitely your kind of, I hate this term, but I'm going to say it anyway. She's like a girl boss, who is, really there to support everybody else, but underneath is, dealing with her own issues, with her mom, and trying to protect herself so much that she's got to let her guard down. And then Snapped is my newest release, which the series was only going to be 3 books, and this was a surprise one. And for some reason, when my editor, I was emailing her, I was like, what about a quarterback who takes a knee? She was like, wonderful. And I was like, why did I say that? Now I'm committed and I have to do it. So it started with just that. But as the book, I started writing and trying to figure out who the heroine would be, Elliot kind of came to life. And then it was her not being able to be African-American and not understand his struggle. That didn't make sense. And I didn't want him educating a white woman. And so I decided to make her biracial in a way that was probably way too personal for me to do. And so what I thought was going to be more about taking a knee and the player treatment in the NFL turned into this identity journey for Elliot and how she dealt with being raised as a biracial person in a white family, and how people say that Elliot is like very naive and like maybe a little like ignorant to everything, but really like how she forced herself to protect herself in this world where she never quite fit in until she finally feels that safety where she can dive into her identity and fully explore it. Yeah. And there's lots of kissing. Yeah.
Yeah. We also, I think we forgot Fumbled.
Oh, yes. Did I not talk about, oh yes, Fumbled's the second one. Fumbled's the secret baby, CTE sequel to Intercepted that I just had so much fun writing with. Yeah, see, that one was definitely more.
I love the graphics too. The covers are amazing.
I know. I wish I could say I had anything to do with them, but they send them to me. I'm like, they're beautiful, and that's my full contribution.
Yeah, they're totally awesome. Yeah, that series is just amazing. And like you said, there's so much packed into it, but it's so light. And I feel like it's the kind of reading that I'm like totally gravitating right now to, just with, so much these 2 pandemics that we're living through and, all this heaviness that, it's nice to have some romance, in your life and something, with some levity, but also, just supporting, Black, authors is so important. And there's, there's not enough amplification of your voices. So we're really, really happy to be able to, share your excellence with the world, that doesn't know you yet. So hopefully they're gonna buy your books right away and start reading because they're really, really, really good. So thanks for sharing a little bit about this, and just the idea of even weaving these heavy topics like race and racism into a romance novel. I don't know if that's something that's done. It's bold and it's totally beautiful. Like how hard was it for you to do that in a way that was authentic to you, and then also, was something that was acceptable from your publisher too, yeah. Right?
I mean, I'm really lucky. I think I love my editor and my agent, and I know they both like would not steer me wrong and support me in telling my stories. I will say I don't think I was prepared for how difficult Snapped was going to be to write. I should have known. I didn't know. A lot of kind of personal little stories and things that I kind of forgotten about came back up to the surface, because I wanted it to be authentic. And it's not my life story, but I know I'm not the only biracial person who has gone through these experiences. So I had to kind of implement them into the book. But yeah, it was that like delicate balance on so many levels of not making it too heavy with racial issues, not making it too heavy with like the political taking a knee, not overshadowing the romance. My books have very strong female friendships, and so definitely not losing those along the way. So kind of weaving them all together was a struggle. It was definitely some more layering as I went through and adding some here and taking some out there. And then I wrote the book in like the summer, fall of 2019. So I had no idea that once it was going to be released, it was going to be into this world that we're in where racial, Colin Kaepernick, it was years. That's why I finally felt safe enough to kind of explore it, because it kind of, people would obviously still talk about it, but not at the level that it was. So the fact that my book came out when it was maybe even more relevant, the taking a knee stance, than it was when he first started was terrifying. I think I called my agent crying more than once, like, I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. I saw you on a Zoom call in December, and you had a statement that I just thought was perfect. You said, romance is about hope. Mm-hmm. And when I heard you say it, it just resonated so strongly with, I was thinking, that is what it is about your books and about romance, that I find that pulls me into it, is because there is that hopefulness. And even though as we've been talking about, you're dealing with real issues, you're dealing with serious issues. And really, I think that is the nature of romance, because there's always an obstacle, keeping two people from their happy, their ending, this, a good ending. But it's either they've got some internal struggle that they're trying to overcome, which in and of itself, they're always, something challenging. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it is about hope. And we also really see that as, why your books should really resonate, with people, not just like us who look like, the people who are in your books, but really with everyone, because that's a universal message. That is what we all want as human beings, is to have hope and to overcome challenges and to grow and to, be happy and to have, loving partners or friends and friendships and all of those things. And so I hope that as people listen and do this, that they consider that and consider, picking up a book with people who look different from them, because we certainly have been reading books about people that look nothing like us the whole time, like our whole lives. And honestly, when I came across your series, all the things you said in the beginning about like why you didn't want to do a football book, mm-hmm. I looked at your cover and I was like, I don't really want to do a football. I don't really want to read a football book.
Struggle, I think, to get people to read.
But you know what? But the thing is that your book is not. It's not just a football book, and that's what I would say is that the minute I got into it, I fell in love with it, and it was also the same thing about sort of pushing myself outside of what, like what is this little box, and what is comfortable for me, to see, without judgment, just kind of being open to it. And it was fun, it was flirty, but you also have these deep layers where people are dealing with, race is there. It's not just this, oh, she's Black, and then they move on. You're dealing with actual real things, but at the same time, it's fun, and you see the friendships and you cultivate all that. So we really see it as, a mirror for people like us, but a window for people who are different. Can you talk a little bit about like how you, when you think about your books and what message you're hoping people get from it?
I mean, I think what I love so much about romance, like I said, is the hope. But especially in a world like we're living in today, there's that safety, right? Where like so many romance, I know people will kind of just, that's why they laugh when I say 50 Shades of Grey, and that's what it is. But there are so many books that dive into really deep topics, but there's a safety, right? And it's just kind of that like hope that when you are going through something hard, like you can, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way forever, which is what I love about these books, is like they all go through something. There's always the internal struggle, but at the end, once they kind of focus on themselves and surround themselves with good people, and but like again, I think the thing with my books is pretty much all of them, the female main character is the one that makes the decision in the end. Like it's never like she's rescued or swooped off her feet. Like she stands in her own and chooses which way she wants to go and how she's going to live her life. And so I do love that about my books. I also just talking about football books. It's why I love Fumbled so much. It's because Poppy is a football girlfriend who hates football. So that was really fun to write because people are like, I don't like football. I'm like, neither does she. It's fine. You'll have something in common. It's okay. But yeah, I also just think that romance is just like inherently political, right? It's a genre written by women about women who aren't ashamed of their sexuality and enjoy sex and get to have this happily ever after without sacrificing who they are. So that's what I really loved. And even though I will say that when I first started writing, I was fully focused on the romance, but as I started going, there's the female friendship really kind of took a leap forward. So just like kind of the romance community, seeing all of these women, diverse, different from different places, supporting each other, has been a really like satisfying thing to write and to see that people enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that your protagonists are all such modern women who with self-determination, and they're all, you know, kind of like you're saying, they're not being rescued, they're finding their path.
Yeah.
And I find that really empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah, you. Oh, I was going to ask about your about the author's note in Snap.
Before we get into that technical part, can we just ask you, Alexa, to read?
No, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. So we're not doing that. So I did want to ask about your. I did want to ask you about to talk a little bit more about your author's note and in Snapped, just how, you know, you talk about how Elliot, sort of what you were mentioning about how you're both biracial and raised with your all white family. And I feel like there's so many examples in the book that I feel like could be really helpful for other people to understand not only just the biracial experience, but what the Black experience can be, because there are so many instances of racism that are happening, you know, right around Elliot, and she doesn't quite see it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes that's tension with her and Quentin because he's lived his whole life as a Black man and you know, can see these things happening. Yeah, how important was that to kind of tell those, you know, snippets?
It was really important. It was also really therapeutic to kind of get out. You know, my like in my author's note, like my dad passed away when I was 1, and then my mom moved us back in with her family, and it was wonderful. And I will say, my grandpa, I mean, he's Italian, so he's not Black, but he was the same complexion as me, which I think might have, looking back on it, also been one of the things like, oh no, he can't be, what do you mean? He's the same skin tone as me, he can't be racist. And, you know, I love my grandpa, but Chicago Italian, there's some instances with that side of the family that weren't necessarily a rainbow to walk through. So it was just, I wanted people to understand the authenticity of this and also where my heart was when I was writing it, because it was one of those things where it's just like, oh no, am I going to alienate my white readers? Am I going to alienate my Black readers? Like, I felt the fear that Elliot feels of the always being on the outside and pushing people away is how I felt publishing this book. Like, oh God, nobody's gonna understand it. People are gonna be pissed, and then I'm just gonna have to make dinner again. I don't know. So, but it was also, I didn't have the author's note at first. It was something I was thinking of, but I was like, oh no, I don't know if I need it. But again, once everything happened, it was really, really important for me to put that out there and for people to kind of see that. Like, there's a part in the book where Elliot touches on when she had thought about going to an HBCU and like her dad got really disappointed. And that's something that happened to me. My grandma was devastated. She cried when I had mentioned it, and she was just like, I didn't think you'd want to go someplace like that, like excludes people. But what ended up happening is, again, just, she's just an older, sweet lady from Chicago who doesn't mean anything by it. But then I end up going to Colorado State, and it's probably the same, as the HBCU, but just with all white people in Fort Collins, Colorado. And there was an instance at my school when there was KKK flyers on all of the cars in the parking lot, and it was just a miserable experience. And even though I know she didn't mean harm, it was just one of those things where I was just like, okay, wait, I need to make sure she's comfortable. And so I put myself in an uncomfortable situation that I didn't enjoy or love because I didn't want to hurt my white grandma. And it was also one of those things where you can't, she was the one that would just be like, the cringy, I have a Black granddaughter thing where like she didn't mean anything by it, but you'd be like, oh no, grandma, don't. Like when she'd meet my boyfriend, like, oh no. Don't talk about how you love Black people, please don't. And so you just kind of laugh it off because it's really all you can do. And so I'm sorry, I get all sidetracked because I ramble. But so yeah, so that was a lot of Snapped, was kind of going down those rabbit holes. And obviously I wasn't 30 and just grappling with it. I, got married at 20. I have a Black husband and Black children, and it wasn't something that I could kind of keep ignoring, but I also understand the need to protect yourself. And that was kind of Elliot's journey, and her realizing that by protecting herself, she was harming herself, and she was just letting other people's feelings pass her own.
Yeah, wow, that is an amazing, I remember reading that part, and it's things like that I think really helps illustrate for people who don't have this lived experience, don't have that lived experience, can really appreciate it and kind of understand what that would be like. In the beginning, in the author's note, you say something about that the tone that is more personal and serious, and that you're hoping that, people come away with it, with a positive. And so when I was reading it, I was wondering, oh, is this going to be different? But it was, I just felt like I loved it as much as all the others. And so do you feel like the reception has been any different compared from Snapped to the other three?
I do. I think that people either like it a lot more or they hate it a lot more. I don't think there's many middles. There's, it's a sensitive subject. And I think that I did a book club, and I was kind of shocked because it was a lot of biracial women, and they did not love Elliot. And they kind of said, like, I realized I felt really called out. I felt like I saw too much of myself. And so I think sometimes people have to sit with it. And if you were it is still fun, and there's still the friendships, and there's still the good steamy parts. But if you're going from Intercepted, which is hashtags and drinks and sparkles, to this book, it's a different change. It's a change. And I don't know if some people loved it. I know I have not read the review because I was warned not to. But I know somebody was very much offended by the portrayal of Elliot in her identity. And so I've just been kind of trying to, I mean, with all books, right? Like I don't really read reviews, but just trying to remind myself of the author's note and why I wrote it, and knowing that I kind of stuck with my truth, and people, if they like it, they like it. And it makes me so happy because I've gotten so many messages from people with biracial children saying like, oh, you made me notice this, or biracial people being like, I feel really seen, or just, you know, so that's been so wonderful. So I've just kind of had to brush off the other.
It must have felt liberating just writing it.
Yeah, it really was. It was, we had just moved to Mexico. And so I was just kind of like adjusting with everything. And it was really nice to kind of go into that, and maybe not so nice to go into some things like, but it was good to get it all out. I think a lot of my books will have a more personal touch just because I like, it's a little bit of my therapy when I write.
Yeah.
All I can say is thank you for writing it, and that I think it's very much needed, especially right now that, you know, we're at a crossroads in America where, you know, we have the Capitol insurrection, you know, people who were saying all kinds of heinous, horrible things about Colin Kaepernick for what he was doing. That's
unpatriotic.
anti-American. You know, and just we're at a time where it's, you know, obviously there's been racial issues since 1619 when the first African was brought here in chains. But it's, you know, I mean, we've lived the summer, we've lived, you know, where we're living now, and we're just really at a
We've
point.
lived our whole lives.
I mean, it's just, the hypocrisy is so visible now that when people say they don't see it, you're like, oh no, you do, you just don't want to. And it's kind of like, what's there even left to say with everything? But yeah, it's been I mean, honestly, every time you think it can't get crazier, it was like, don't say that. So you just stop saying it because you just know, like, just waiting for the next thing to happen.
Well, and then to think that most of those, you know, rioters that were arrested are all now out on bail.
No big deal.
No big deal. Like, really?
We'll talk about the kids who are still in jail without trial for petty crimes, but okay, cool. It's just like, why you gotta read romance, because you have to escape from it sometimes, because it is just infuriating. It's like, not even,
you know,
like pleasure activism. We have to like fall into our pleasure, right?
Yeah.
As a sign of resistance.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm going to argue, I'm making the argument that to tackle race in romance is no different than tackling mental illness, abuse, all these other hard topics that I've seen in every other romance book.
50 Shades of Grey.
And I think that it's just because it's race, it gets labeled like it's off limits. Why is it off limits? It's off limits.
Yeah.
Romance is $1 billion industry, billion with a B. And we have a slide with the statistics from the Ripped Bodice report on diversity. And it's just, you know, I don't know. I feel like your books show that it can be done, and it can be done well, and it can be done in a way that's engaging and brings us with our full humanity, that you can show people a full lived experience. And that's what, I mean, I know that's what I want to see. We want to see ourselves represented. We want our stories. I mean, we read other, I have BIPOC up here, but I have plenty of white ones as well. You know, we read those too, but it's nice to read and see yourself.
Yeah.
But thank you. I mean, and also you not only that, but you touch on CTE, you touch on the fairness for athletes in retirement. So just really important issues. So I just have to give you kudos for going there.
I like that.
I'll just say we have a participant's question just asking, how much do you have to filter yourself to be accepted by both Black and white audiences when you're writing?
I don't think I really do, which is probably why I panicked once this book was coming out, because I was like, maybe I should have. My voice is my voice, and as much as I try to change it, I can't. And so I just have to hope. I think, though, what can happen a lot of times with Black authors is we're expected to do these really heavy topics, right? Like, so many times you are expected to do race and all these other things. And so sometimes just writing the romance feels like something like, oh gosh, I don't know if people are going to accept that. Like you said, we read stories about people all the time and we relate to them because that's just, you relate to people when you read their stories. But then you hear people saying they don't read Black romance authors because they can't relate, but they're reading werewolf books and vampires, and like, those aren't even real. So what are we doing? So I just try to focus on my readers and writing the best book that I can write, and whatever comes out, comes out. Sometimes I intentionally try to stay away from race just for that reason. Like, nope, sometimes Black women just have fun, and being Black is not what they're going to be focused on for the night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. We need that diversity. We need to just be able to have fun sometimes.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I'm glad there's more Black writers, more Black books getting out there, so that it's not, one book has to tell our whole story, that we can have.
Exactly. Because then I think we get harder on them, right? Sometimes I see they're really hard, because when you're searching for that representation, you want it to represent you. But just like all my authors can't represent all the people, like, we can't do that. And so when there's more representation, we can just enjoy it more when we see it and kind of read the story.
Yeah.
So we have to ask you about Bridgerton, because of course we binge watched it when that came out on Christmas.
I mean,
and just it's been a hit, and it's sort of like, again, shows diversity. I think there's this narrative in America that Black love stories, Black anything doesn't sell, it doesn't attract viewers. That's just BS. I mean, we see everybody is talking about Bridgerton, and it's, Shonda Rhimes, it shows it can be done, and everything doesn't have to look like Outlander, which before, Outlander still, but it's not diverse. It's not diverse at all.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
But again, we don't have like the Black on Black love yet. Like, we haven't had like a normal, just Black love story, right?
I know.
I'm hoping we're gonna get. I need to have like no drama, like no 1960s, like something crazy's happening. Like, I just want to have like a love story.
I mean, it's different. It's not a pure love story, but Sylvie's Choice on Amazon is really, really good. It's really
yeah, I watched that. That was really good.
I'll put it on my list.
There's a beautiful scene when they're in the street, Alexa, dancing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those tender moments. That's what I liked about it, is that you have these tender moments between two Black people with, that you just don't see. So hopefully it means that with the popularity of Bridgerton, that there's going to be more opportunities. There's a record now showing
reading romance. I mean, not even just diverse, but just romance content at all. So many people look down on the genre, even though, like you said, it's $1 billion industry. Like, we want this, and you see that when you finally give it to us. It's what the most viewed. I think they said like 82 million views or something like that on Netflix. Like, we want romance, and not just this like closed door, barely give me a kiss crowd. Like, we want it.
Hot and heavy. I still am trying to get back to page 272 just to get a little hot and steamy in here tonight.
Oh my God, can I just say, I hate writing the sex scenes. It's the one part of writing romance that stresses me out.
Oh my God, you're so good at it.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're getting it on, girl.
I don't know what happens. I'm just like, okay, just get it over. And then I don't reread them unless like my editor is like, what about this part? And then I do, but otherwise they're the only parts of the books that I refuse to reread because I just can't. I think in Blitzed was in like Cosmo magazine, like a section of it for being steamy. And I read it and I was like, I wrote that. Like, I didn't remember it at all. I was like, that's what I wrote. There's like a word. That I said that word. Yes, like I black out a little bit during the vaccines.
How is
vivid
that with your
imagination.
friends?
That's all I can say. Keep writing, girl, because that is nice and vivid.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Folks at home, if you have not read them, pick them up. Yeah, how is it with your friends and family? Like, because you were saying how, for 2 years, I think you said it took 4 years, 2 years of it, you hadn't told anybody. I guess your husband knew, but nobody else knew. So how was that once it's like you were out as a romance writer and now people are reading it? How was that?
It's still so weird. I mean, I remember we went like on a vacation with some of our friends, and my friend she was a football wife and she reads romance too. And so we were talking about it, and Derek's like, Alexa's writing one. I almost like didn't mean to, but I almost punched him. I was like, don't tell anybody what I'm doing. So I started really, really small. I feel like the average person living in the times of the internet, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. And so I had a few mom friends that were really into romance, and there's like 2 of them who would talk about books. I was like, kind of writing something that's not good, but like, maybe could you see, I don't know if I should keep doing it. And so they're like, no, it's really good. It was not really good. Disclaimer, they're just very nice friends. It was not very good. And so then in another Facebook group, which is the only place I meet people apparently, I met one of my CP's critique partners this day, and one of my like best friends, but she kind of mentioned like, oh, one of her dreams was to like write a YA book. I was like, I want to write a book too. Like, do you want to send each other chapters back and forth? And so that's how I finished my first book, is exchanging work with her. Mm-hmm. And I still didn't tell really any, besides my like good close friends and my like husband, what I was doing until I got into Pitch Wars. And when I got into Pitch Wars, I deleted my Facebook. So still none of them knew. Mm-hmm. And so then once I got my age, and it was kind of like a mic drop on like Facebook, like, hey, guess what? I wrote this book. Here's what it is. I don't know. And I still get like silly comments like, oh, you write porn and all of this like stupid stuff that I've just learned to brush off, because again, it's $1 billion industry. So joke if you want to, but they're creating content that people want to read. Yeah. And I've also kind of learned that people like to look down upon things that are written when it's focused for women. So you just kind of learn to brush it off. But yeah, no, I did not tell a lot. My grandma had passed away right before I finished the book. And so I'm so sad that she's not able to see everything, but I'm also like, oh, thank God. She's not reading this. One of her friends, her daughter, and I keep in touch on Facebook, and she was just like, I was listening to your audiobook in the car and it was fine. Everything was fine. And my mom got in, and then all of a sudden it was a sex scene. I was like, no, a sex scene started playing to Mrs. Borso, like full panic.
Oh.
Her
she probably enjoyed that. Oh my word.
God, thank God we don't have to see her right now. So there are definitely people, and my grandpa, my dad's dad, was like, I'm telling everybody to read your book. I was like, maybe don't read it though, Grandpa. Thanks. Appreciate your support, but let's not do it.
Yeah.
That's too cute. My introduction to romance was our grandmother. Who I told everyone, we're sisters. But yeah, our grandmother, when we used to go visit, she sort of had like her room, she and my grandparents had their room, and then she had her room that had like all her stuff. And that was the room we would stay in. And somehow managed to get into something in her room. And that's where I got my introduction. So we have a question from Lindsay, who asks, who's Elliot's Bridgerton crush?
Okay. This is a hard one, Lindsay. Okay, I want to say, I feel like people would expect the Duke, but the sleeper in Bridgerton is the Duke's boxing friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now, but let's go with him, because let's go for obvious reasons.
I could see that for sure. And the person who plays the Duke is in Sylvie's story. He's not the lead, but he's in it. He's in the band. He's in the group.
He's in, there's another Shonda series. I think it only was like 1 or 2 seasons, called Weird.
He looks different. I mean, and sounds different because he's American.
But I mean, if you just need a little more content, you can find it.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us what are you working on? No, what else? What are you binging now? What are you
Yeah. What are you
enjoying?
loving? What are you reading and watching?
All right, so I just binged the show on Netflix. It's a reality competition series about glass blowers called Blown Away, and it was the coolest show ever. My post-quarantine to-do list is now a vacation to Ireland and glass blowing classes. I really am really so into it. If anybody watched Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, that's back on, and I love it. Will make you hysterically cry, but it's great. There's some good diversity in that show as well. I literally planned for this question. Oh my gosh, you know what my favorite show is right now, and it's kind of embarrassing, but I don't care, is Julie and the Phantoms, also a Netflix original. And it's
I haven't heard of that one. That's on the list.
Julian? Is Julian and the Phantom?
Julie.
Oh, Julie and the Phantom.
Julie and the Phantoms. You haven't heard of it because it's
on my list
for like 9-year-olds. But it is my favorite show. I've rewatched it about 10 times. It's about a girl, Julie Molina, who lost her mom, and it's like a musical. Kenny Ortega directed it, so like High School Musical and The Descendants, all of those shows. And when she sits to play the piano again, a ghost band that used to practice there like comes back, and she can only see the band. But then when they sing together, everybody can see them. So it's like a middle grade ghost musical show. The romance is the sweetest thing you'll ever watch because they're ghosts, so they can't touch, and you're like, just hold hands. But they can't, and it's
sounds sweet.
So good. I listen to the music in the morning when I wake up. It's just great. And then also another one is, oh my gosh, it's a K-drama. How am I not remembering the name right now? Oh my gosh.
We have someone in our family who loves K-drama. I'm not going to call them out. We try to maintain other people's privacy.
Okay, this one's Crash Landing on You, and it is also like so good. So good.
I have heard of that.
Any K-drama.
So good. It's also good because it's a K-drama. So I'm the kind of person who's always like on my phone or whatever, but you can't do that in those because you have to read the subtitles. So I was like able to focus and really get into the show. And the most attractive people I've ever seen in my entire life. How dare you? And then for reading, I like New Year, I've been reading a lot of like self-help books and making my friends read them too. But I'm actually awesome, so I didn't forget. I am also reading Chanel Cleaton's Next Year in Havana, which is great. It's a dual timeline. It takes place in Cuba. It's really good. And then I just finished, my next book is a women's fiction book. So I've been trying to read more women's fiction. And so I also read this book, You Were There Too. It's about a woman who's been having dreams with the same person since she was in high school, and she doesn't really think anything of it until she meets him, like when her and her husband moved to a new town, and then she finds out he's been having dreams of her too, and they kind of try to explain everything. If you don't want to cry, do not read that book. It will break you into 1,000 pieces. It was like the middle of the night when I finished reading it. I think I woke my husband up. I was like, this is why I read romance. So, but yeah, it was a really great book. I still think about it sometimes, like get a little angry, but it was also like very clever and really well written. So those are what I'm reading.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you. We have another question in the audience, Kirsten. Lindsay has another question.
Oh, what can you tell us about your women's fiction manuscript? Yes, thanks, Lindsay. I was going to ask because this is Mom, Jeans, and Other Mistakes.
Yeah. So I'm actually doing the copy edits now, and it is, I mean, I think I say this about all my books, but like it's maybe my favorite. I love it so much. It's about two best friends who are kind of struggling in their life and decide to move in together, like they promised they would in high school, for financial and emotional support. One's a failed / struggling influencer. The other is a single mom. The little girl in the book is the best. She's like a super feminist little like 5-year-old powerhouse, and it's great. And it's a lot of female friendship. There's, you know, different like subplots on casual drinking and casual like alcoholism, toxic family members, also like a strong focus on millennial women as like the mother-daughter relationship. So millennial women as mothers, but also millennial women as daughters, and the pressures they're going through for everything. And it is just, even though I said, I was like, there's going to be no romance in this book. But I think like chapter 4, I was like, ooh, a love interest, which is
Can't let go of that.
definitely a subplot, but very sweet. Also a lot of like, not a lot, because I didn't, at first it was going to be 2 moms, and I was like, too much mom stuff. I have 4 kids, and I was like, you got to get away from some of the mom stuff. But there is like a lot of like mom group drama that's pretty entertaining, because mom groups are ridiculous, of like the best and worst kind. It's just a really, I think it's a really good book. I'm obviously biased. Really touches, also one of the characters is Black, so and she's the mom, so kind of Black women, like mortality rate for birth, like it touches a little bit on that. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but it works, I think.
When's it coming out? Or when can you pre-order it?
September 7th. Yeah, it's you can pre-order it now, or just add it to your Goodreads.
Awesome.
Yeah, we will definitely do that.
Well,
How has your writing process changed over, you know, because now I guess, so now this is your 5th book. Do you feel like it's the same? I mean, I hear some authors who say it's not like that it gets easier with the next book, or it's kind of like, because you're still starting, you know, from scratch with a new book.
I feel like it's easier and it's harder. I know what I want, which makes it harder. I have like higher expectations of myself, which makes it harder. I think that I've streamlined my process more, so I'm not as panicked. Like I said, when the first book took me 4 years, I had no outline. I just wrote, which is why it was a disaster. Now I have resources to kind of help me keep my pacing on points. I'm able to kind of plot it out more. I'm not a full plotter. What I like to do is I kind of write the back cover copy. And so it doesn't feel as intense as a full plot, but I kind of get the over idea of the story, and then I can build from there. It takes me about 3.5 months to write a book now. So I feel pretty confident with it when I'm writing. It's actually writing, right? And then not overthinking it. So I'm for sure a writer who I'll reread a little bit of the last chapter, but I don't go back and reread everything. I have people that will start again from the beginning and edit everything, and I can't do that. I have to write straight through, then make the bigger changes after. So
Do you think you'll return to romance?
yeah, actually I will. So I have, after this book comes out, I have 2 more books coming out with Berkeley. One is a romance and one is a women's fiction, and that romance, it's untitled. I don't even know if I'm really supposed to be talking about it. I mean, I haven't started it yet, but it's about a woman who inherits a bookstore from her grandma, but she hates books. She thinks movies are always better. She also inherits the old lady book club, who decides to meddle in her life and set her up with an author who kind of creates a book bucket list of dates that like go with dates to win her over to the book side. I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be sweet. And then
that sounds cute.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to experience romance outside of football, honestly. So
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds exciting.
thanks.
Yeah. If any participants have any other questions, please pop them into the chat now. We have a few more minutes with Alexa, so get your questions in if you have any. And yeah, we really have enjoyed this hour with you. It's been great. And
So much fun.
I'm really looking forward to finishing the books and looking forward to all of the other projects you're working on.
Yeah, if you watch Julie and the Phantom, please message me so we can talk. Because I'm
awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you all, what my impressions are of it. Okay, Lindsay has another question.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Let's see what she's asking.
Oh, she wants to know what lipstick you're wearing.
I just ordered off of Amazon. It's just like an NYX one with like a Target lip gloss over it. I don't even know. I'll put it in my Instagram stories later.
Awesome. That looks luscious. There's a color. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of random questions? I guess, I mean, yeah, you're pretty, I mean, you have an Instagram, you like to post about your books and things.
Yeah, I post a lot about my kids and my books.
Mhm.
I'm like trying to find interesting content about me is like a real struggle. So thank you for giving me an Instagram post.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We really enjoyed our time with Alexa. I'm going to just share our screen one more time because we have actually a few events coming up that we want to just share with everyone. We'll just get to the page here. It is,
Yeah. Alexa can tell you where they can find the alexamartin.com as your Alexa.
if people want to follow you, Alexa, what's the best? Handle?
Yeah, so my website is alexamartin.com, and on Instagram and Twitter, I'm Alexa M Books.
Okay, awesome.
And all in 2021, but is it available for you now?
You're turning into a robot person.
Right now.
Your voice is turning into a robot. I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. Okay, well, yeah, pick up her books. Is there a special bookseller that you recommend getting your series from?
I lived in Colorado. Oh, I love The Ripped Bodice, a romance bookstore. That's great. When I lived in Colorado, I would go to Book Bar, which is a bookstore and a bar. So obviously very on brand.
Very fun.
Yeah. And now we're in Nashville, and unfortunately I am too afraid to leave my house, so I haven't explored yet.
Right. Well, thanks for those tips. And upcoming this Friday, we're going to be talking with Michael Steele about white supremacy and politics today. And then on February 9th, we're going to be unpacking the invisible knapsack with the one and only Dr. Peggy McIntosh. So hopefully you guys will join us. And we have several other upcoming events coming up. So check back in about a week and we'll have all of February's conversations posted. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. And you can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Here, there's our handle. And have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.